Peace to all, and welcome to another episode of Elevate the Mic. And I'm your host, Max Mupese. Today, I'm sitting next to a guest who has a lot of years of experience working behind the scenes and also in front of the camera in the music business. He's a leader, a cultural curator, I could say, a father, and somebody who has a vision for not only the people in Montreal, but the people around the world. Let us all welcome California Ghost King. How you doing, man?
All right, I'm good. Thank you, my brother.
Feeling well?
Very well, very well.
That's
very
dope,
well.
dope. How you feeling these days? How's everything, man?
I mean, I'm feeling good. I mean, I'm feeling blessed. I'm feeling healthy. I mean, when you have your health, you got to feel good, right?
That's real. That's
first
real.
and foremost. So, yeah, I'm feeling great, man.
Got it.
Yeah.
So, California Ghost King, could you tell us the name, tell us the meaning behind the name, and why'd you start calling yourself California Ghost King?
Okay, well, California Ghost King is very layered, many meanings. I only started going by California Ghost King here in Montreal. But California, obviously, that's my roots. I'm from California. Ghost has multiple layers. Spiritual meaning, obviously, always trying to keep myself filled with the Holy Ghost. So that's one thing. And also, as a ghost, feeling like, you know, my peculiar situation in music and art has always left me to kind of be like a ghost, not really recognized or seen on the front. So that's where the ghost comes from. And king is just, you know, that's what we all should seek to be. That's what I believe, kings and queens.
Absolutely.
Which is more of an expression of character than anything else. You know.
That's why I mentioned behind the scenes, because I noticed that when I went to the last show you guys had in spring, if I'm not mistaken, I was able to watch you perform. However, I still got the mystique vibe from you. I still got the idea of like someone who's still behind the scenes. It's not necessarily the person that's leading in front of the camera for the most part. Would you say that's something that's always been part of your identity for the most part?
Not at all, actually. You know, like back in California, I was always like more of a front guy, you know, in terms of the art, you know, and music. But I think as I grew and like my spiritual views deepened, I just had less of a desire to be in the front, though I naturally create. I'm a natural creator. So I'm gonna make music, I'm gonna make art, it's just part of me. But I think it just became less important to be recognized or in the front, always seen as doing so. So I kind of, and then of course, you know, as my children started getting older and my younger brothers and mentees and start growing, you know, it was just, I felt just more beneficial for us all to kind of like move myself to the back to allow other persons to grow. And so that's, you know, so, but no, I wasn't always just like behind the scenes and a ghost. I was very much front runner and you know, back in the day.
Okay, got it.
You know.
So it changed with the times.
Yeah, absolutely. And perspective.
Okay.
You know, different ambitions, right?
Got it. Makes sense. You're talking about California, so you were born and raised in the States, grew up in Pasadena, if I'm not mistaken?
Yep, grew up in Pasadena. Family is from Los Angeles, Pasadena area. Family's from the Crenshaw district, same area like Nipsey Hussle, these guys. My pops is from there. Me, myself, I grew up in Pasadena, you know, so yeah, I'm a Dena guy. Altadena, Pasadena, that's what we would say. You know, Crown City, yeah.
Altadena, Pasadena, what does that mean?
Well, because Altadena is a part, it's like an unincorporated part of this same area. It's more the northernly part, you know, which is, you know, it's unincorporated, so it's like small, but no high schools or anything up there.
Shoot,
yeah, and yeah, you know, but it's like one city. So Altadena, Pasadena is kind of like one city. It's kind of like how you would say like Westmont and
got it.
You know, but so there's no schools up there, but we grew up. So, you know, it's very defined difference between Altadena and Pasadena because of multiple, obviously, historical gangs, you know, things like that. But I consider it just one. We call it Dena. So Altadena, Pasadena, Dena.
Got it.
Yeah, Crown City. It's all together. You know, I represent the unification of both. Whereas, you know, you go out there, some people say, Altadena's up there, you know, we don't go up there, you know.
Just to create that distinction.
Yeah, they will definitely let you know there's a distinction. That's why I mention it. But, you know, it's the same geographical location.
That's dope, man. Yeah. Got it. And how was it growing up there? Could you tell us a little bit about some defining moments that shaped your character for the most part?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot, man. Like, we be sitting here for days if I was to try to list them all, but you know, I grew up in a predominantly black community of California, you know, so black excellence. I grew up like in the 80s, 90s, so my very young childhood was in the 80s, so I remember like growing up, you know, like I was saying earlier, being able to come out, playing football in the front yard, playing basketball, free for all, you know, just the typical black positive environment. That's what I grew up in. You know, obviously as time continued, you know, like we were saying earlier, Reaganomics, you know, mass incarceration, I also witnessed the shift and the change. So I think I'm like one of the last generations. I would say so. You know, there's other people that probably argue with it, but you know, being that I'm like one of the last generations before this whole social media wave, you know, the 90s kid, you know, I feel like I was one of the last generations to witness both sides of it, like before the degradation, before the total degradation of the neighborhoods and so forth. And actually, I got to see the good part, the fun, the unity, you know, the black pride, the black, you know, excellence, you know, portion for education. But I also got to see the very downside of it, because I saw the drugs come into the community. You know, I saw the gangs. You know, obviously you become affiliated by just the very nature of living there, you know, so I saw both sides of it. Saw friends die, murdered, in and out of prison. So, you know, I don't like to dwell on that side of it, but it was a very diverse experience on both positive and negativity, we could say.
Got it.
You know? But I think you know, me coming from a certain type of family and having like a very strong, you know, moral principle backpack, you know, I had all these moral principles in my backpack I was carrying around. It allowed me to navigate it a little differently, and even though we all fall short, you know, in certain aspects of life, as I did, I was able to, you know, climb out of it and, you know, be able to move forward and keep myself, you know, not lose myself to the negativity, to the violence, or the other, you know, things that we were exposed to in the area.
Perfect.
You know?
Got it. Clan Supreme and Humblux, right?
Humblux.
Humblux, thank you. Humblux.
Yeah.
Could you break down Humblux? Because I got confused the first time I heard about Humblux.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, it's a production company?
Well, it's a cultural production agency of sorts. You know, like, you know, as with everything, we're learning. I'm still learning what it is as we go. You know what I mean? It's continuing to grow, but for the most part, I would say it's a cultural production agency. That deals with the seven channels of cultural production, and for the most part right now, music is the channel that we most function in. And we're slowly going into fashion a little bit, you know, with the merchandising of a lot of the musical campaigns, but it's a cultural production agency. Got it. Yeah, that's what it is.
And that's where you guys gave birth to Clan Supreme, right, if I'm not mistaken?
Yep, Clan Supreme. Clan Supreme is the hip-hop, the avant-garde hip-hop group that's coming out of Humblux.
Humblux.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Humblux, I guess, functions similar to what the label would function.
Right.
You know, however, just different principles and like just all-inclusive. We do everything and deal with a little more. You know?
A full-service entertainment business or a full-service entertainment production. Well, like you said.
Yeah, I think it could be seen as such, but like I said, we're developing it, you know. So, but I think more of, I like to keep it in the pocket of cultural production agency because it allows us to cover all aspects. So yeah, as cultural producers, which we refer to ourselves as, it allows us to deal with music, allows us to deal with fashion, allows us to deal with film, sport. You know, every channel of culture that we create in or that we want to create in allows us to directly engage that and not being in a box that's like, oh, well, we're just you know, musicians or whatever.
I like how you're breaking it down.
Yeah.
I wanted to circle back on Clan Supreme. Because it's interesting. Well, the first time I saw Clan Supreme, I'm like, it's interesting. The reason why I find it interesting is like every one of the members has the same last name, sort of like
the
mob,
SPRM.
right?
Yeah, it's definitely similar.
So who came up with that idea and how did that come about exactly? Could you tell us a little bit?
I don't think we definitely didn't come up with the idea. There's persons that have been exercising this concept like way old before us. You know, it's really for us. It just made more sense business-wise. You know, it's more. I think the climate right now in the industry. They're more keen to receive groups. We haven't seen like power groups in a long time, no legacy power groups, you know? And I just think just in terms of the way we create as a collective, it just made most sense. It makes more, we feed off of each other, we feed off each other's productivity. We're always sharing and working on the same projects or, you know, at least inspiring each other on projects. So it just made more sense and we feel most comfortable creating together.
Okay.
And being that, you know, as individual artists, it seemed also more logical to push our brand together for a variety of many reasons, being that, you know, we're family, we work in the same style, and we share the same ideas and perspectives and spirit, you know, of life. So it just made more sense for us. And in terms of business right now, like I was saying, to double back on that, it's just I've noticed that promoters and different other entities in entertainment are more keen to receive a group right now.
Yes.
You know, and I think that it allows people, especially when you're starting out like us, it allows for people to have more eye candy of sorts, to say, oh, well, I like some of this, I like some of what he has, and then it brings a greater attention to the whole collective and allows people to appreciate every member in the context of how they kind of fit together. You know, I think our group is really very complementary to each other. So I think when you set us all next to each other, you get to kind of see everyone shine a little even brighter, because it brings to mind like, oh, okay, you get to see what's really happening, and like this is a group action. You know, these people are working to literally fulfill a joint sound. You know, everyone's diminishing themselves in some regard to elevate the whole, you know.
Okay.
And so these are type of principles why it works for us, and like I said, I think it's best for business, the business climate at the time.
Got it.
And so not one of us just can't, yeah, let's go over the clan. Well, how are we gonna do it? Let's do it like we saw, you know, Asa. Another inspiration was like Tyler, the Creator. Obviously how he started his whole collective, and a lot of other collectives, a lot of you know, positive collectives, spoken word, you know, groups from New York to LA that have had some influence on why we chose to do it this way. You know?
I'm learning. I didn't know that Tyler Creator, he had a quote unquote
yeah, that's where you get, you know, there's no Earl Sweatshirt, you know, our Future. You've heard of Our Future?
I've heard, yes.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Our Future, you know, I've been around like since before them, but like I remember, you know, keeping my eye to the developments, and I really like how Our Future was able to come together under Tyler, and everybody in that group is successful, you know what I'm saying? So you got from Earl Sweatshirt to you know, Frank Ocean, to the brother who's on who in the film, you know, they branched out into film and many different things. So I really think they're the way we're a little bit different in you know, principles and ethics and so forth, but you know, I think that's a good example of how the collective can be successful in launching in that fashion. You know,
everybody eats.
Yeah, everybody eats. You know, and everybody keeps each other growing. Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
You also work with 3 of your children, right? 3 of your sons.
Yeah, 3 of my sons.
Could you tell
my
us?
Oldest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you tell us what you learned about yourself working with your sons?
And like working with your family, you learn something about yourself continuously, you know. But I've learned a lot. I've learned, I think one of the biggest things recently is learning that, you know, you gotta be willing to let go of control of certain things. If you want something to grow and flourish, you can't overpossess it, you know. So as with my sons, as with my ideas, as with my thoughts, you know, I've learned to let back a little bit. And I learned that, you know, if you want to take a more leadership role, you know, sometimes you got to more so create the environment for learning and growth rather than telling a person, you know. Sometimes I think you can stunt, like, you know, especially with my children, you can stunt someone. You can, you know, cause them not to reach their potential if you get into this relationship where it's just a one direction. I'm telling you something that I know, and just because I've had the experience and I know, I'm going to cut everything else out and you just do it this way. I've learned more than to hear everybody, listen, contribute what I know. You know, I have to show that what I've experienced and what I know is valuable to what they're seeking, you know, and then create the environment for everybody to grow and mature in what they're doing. And in so doing, I've learned that by way of doing that, they more often will come to me for something that they don't know, rather than me imposing what I do know on them. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I think that creates the setting for better work to be done, and more potent work to be done, more greater qualitative work to be done. And it also allows for, you know, what I'm in the game for, and especially with my children, allows them to come into whom they are and to find out their own artistic identity, their purpose, and the things that work for them and don't work for them. Everybody creates differently, you know. So I think I've learned to let go of control and create a better environment for everybody to come in to and find their own self, and just be an aid in that.
Got it. Kind of gotta give them that freedom, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You don't want to cut a person's freedom.
Yeah.
Most persons that are doing art, entrepreneurship, that's what they're seeking, freedom, right? So, it's not good to put them in a situation where that gets cut off, right?
Facts.
Otherwise, they can go get a 9-to-5, they can go get a job, they can do other things that they can, have much more greater benefit in just keeping nose to line and just doing what it said. But in this we're dealing with, intellectual property. So you got to set the grounds for that to come out, that to increase in value, right? So that's how I look at it. I look at like everybody that I work with, they're a being that has a purpose, whether they know it or not. And I don't want to be the one to disrupt that process of them finding their purpose. I'd rather be someone that helps in creating the conditions of them finding their purpose versus distracting them and having them or being a tool, a social tool to hold a person down. We often don't realize how we hold people down. We often hold people down with the intentions to help them, and it's our own ignorance, our own, traits, our, principles that can become in the way, and we be blind to that. So I think that's something that I learned. I learned to not blind myself to other person's processes, and not to use my own experience to impede on other person's processes, but use my experience to help fertilize it.
Right. That's deep.
That's it.
Like, you also have to detach yourself from, your ego. You have to detach yourself from all of your accomplishments and everything. That's right. That's
you got to be open-minded. You know what I'm saying? Me, that's one of my core principles is being open-minded, because I feel like you can't really see yourself and you can't really navigate where you're at or where you're going if you're not. You know what I'm saying? And trust me, I've felt victim to self-deception many times. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's something that I don't want to fall victim to anymore. I've lost a lot of blood, sweat,
you learned your
time.
lesson. You learned your lesson. You're like, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good on that. I'm good. Just be open. Just be open and examine things properly.
Got it. So I want to touch back also. I want to go back to your cultural production team, right?
Yeah.
So I understand that it's a cultural production team that strives to solve bad problems through cultural production. Can you tell us a little bit more about that or elaborate?
Right, yeah. Actually, it's to solve wicked problems.
Thank you. Wicked problems.
More particularly, to solve wicked problems. Wicked problems, when you hear the word wicked, you often think like, oh, that's a religio term, because it often is used in religion. But this is more of a design term. Like when we talk about wicked problems, we're talking about designs in society, structural designs. And wicked problems are basically, it's a term, it's a sociological term in which we describe problems in society that are pretty much unsolvable almost. You got like systemic racism, you have so many different issues that there's no one solution to, and oftentimes to try to solve it one way can open up a bag of many other problems, right? As we do in with policy making and so forth. So to solve wicked problems means to solve poor systems of design, poor structures of design, and for me, and particularly, we can look into art, right? One real easy way to look at a poor design or a wicked problem is like, the manner in which the monies were, I'll use just a generic example, like the manner in which artists gain monies from these big entities. It was often very, disparaging, and not even, let's just say it wasn't a even or equitable distribution of wealth, right? Well, that in itself is a wicked problem. So how do we solve that? How do we, make a structure or a system in which, whether it be through royalties or whatever it may be ethical and right, in which creators of certain communities are not just getting raped in terms where their cultural commerce and their cultural assets and values are not just abstracted out of their community and transferred into other communities by way of these entities. How do we allow, or how do we create systems in which that massive wealth can be circulated back into the community in which it originates from, right? These are issues of what? Wicked problems. These are issues of design and structural design. So as a cultural production agency, we seek to kind of look at that, you know, and we know we're very small, but this is the psychology and the perspective, and we view every business action in which we're taking. So if we're seeking to do something, there's oftentimes we may sacrifice a gain or sacrifice potential gains by just choosing not to do it the way that the larger superstructure is doing it, because in our discussions or an observation or a study of that thing, it's just not ethical, it's not right, and it would cause, and we, at that point, we wouldn't be searching for ways to solve wicked problems. We would just be benefiting off of our knowledge of the wicked problem, you know. So that's what it means as being an avant-garde collective that prides itself on seeking to examine and create solutions to wicked problems.
Okay, very well elaborated.
Oh, thank you, bro.
I also want to say that I got a chance to go to your last event back in June, early June, and what impressed me, what really inspired me the most was that you guys have this space, right?
Right.
And in this space, not only like there's how many rooms? Like over 5 rooms or three to 5 rooms?
Yeah, we have about 4 or 5 rooms upstairs,
right?
And like 3 or 4 rooms downstairs.
And
yeah.
Every room has its purpose. Like you guys sell merch. There's also an art collection, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And could you tell us about the whole concept behind it, and how did you get inspired by that?
I mean, you know, I think there's a lot of different things that have inspired me to try to do it. I would say it's just a continuation, really. Okay. You know, if you're not familiar, like when I first came here, like back in 2006 with my family, with my wife actually, we opened up like a small book cafe, like a bookstore, you know, and we started like a arts movement called Eyes Wide Open Artistic Peace Movement. And like through this arts movement, we used to have like little symposiums, little discussions like weekly, and talk about these very things, you know. And the vibe that was there, many artists in this city, though this not often mentioned, many of the artists in this city got their first stage at this location. Right. Their first exposure to a certain level of intense dialogue and discussion pertaining to the scene and the industry and what should be done and how things can pop in Montreal. I'm not saying it's the only one, but for a lot it was the first one. And especially I think it was the first one where it was a continual open dialogue with someone who has a history in the States, like I had a history in the States, you know. So it started, and it was a bookstore. It was beautiful. We had a cafe. It was open. It was a very open space, art and everything. So I think the model that it was called OCL. So I think the model, the ideal that we weren't able to fully bring to life there was the beginning of what we're doing now. You know, so we did have a space, and we've had a couple of spaces over the time. And right when we we felt like we were cultivated to the point where we were able to open up, COVID hit. So it's like we moved into the building, renovated, and then it was like COVID. And so like from COVID to now, it's kind of like our revamping, adjusting, adapting like what we wanted to do. You know, our staff changed up a little bit, and now we're kind of like at the point where we're finally doing what we've already, what we initiated in 2019. So the ideal comes from just the experience of many different museums, a lot of different art collectives, you know, like I said, from New York, this whole spoken word vibe, and just this whole idea of like not wanting to have a space that can serve like as a cultural hub, but at the same time where we can produce and create business out of, and also draw persons into like a new view of what Montreal could be. You know, in my experiences, I've seen a lot of divisions. You know, that's a whole different discussion here. And there are reasons for those divisions, you know, that I think are beyond us who are divided, right? But I think it could be overcome, and by taking initiatives like what we're doing with our space. So in terms of design, it's just kind of like how we wanted it to be a place where you can come in and like, you know, get coffee, you know, engage various forms of culture, a center where you can, like what we could say, where there's a universal black community, where you can, in terms of unification, engage all aspects of global black culture, but we have like an affinity to North American black culture, obviously being from the States and being here in Canada. So, you know, the inspiration comes from that, just the multiple engagements over the years of, you know, shows in museums, shows in these different arts spaces, you know, seeing multimedia centers that, you know, we hope to open up in the future, and just feeling the need to have that type of location here for ourselves first, because we needed the type of space that we were envisioning so that we can be in to create, you know, build the community we saw, and also have something that's viable to extend out where people can come in and say, oh, okay, I get the vibe, you know. And we kind of look at it like it's an embassy. We call it an embassy of art, because it's like an embassy. It's like when you come into our place, you know, we try to give off the vibe that it's not, and the view that it, you know, we not in Canada, we not in the United States,
I got that.
We not in these constructs of the nation state. We're here and we're human beings. So who are you? What is your identity? What is your experience of life? And let's see how we can connect and we can exchange this, draw forth how we're going to transform this into the various forms of culture, which then turns into various forms of cultural products. Then that becomes the basis in which we can build our interlocking dependency of business upon, you know. So that's kind of like how and what inspired the space, is just to create that kind of place where, you know, at some hopefully very near future time, we can have a more, you know, populated, or I would say more en masse exchange of business, values, worth, and we can start setting doing the value fixation for ourselves here in Montreal of the value of what we create, and then have the network and the shared support to really carry it out and get what we need as well, you know. So I don't know, I kind of went into a tangent there, but you know,
which was good, because pretty much everything you said, I was able to see it when I went to your space, when I visited your space, because the embassy, like you mentioned, a place where people could also read, sit down. And,
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I saw all of that. That's,
you know,
that's very. It was very well detailed the way you broke it down.
It is. There is some difficulty trying to manage it because there's two sides of it. You know, we want to cater to a very specific type of mind, but at the same time, we open to the public. So, you know, sometimes it's like, you know, like people may come down and, like, you know, we're very easy to, we'll shut down. We could be in there in the middle of a conversation, all of a sudden it fills up, people from the public, people we've never met. We're in there 30-piece persons, coffee, and it's like, wait, this conversation, we're going to shut we shut down, you know? So there's sometimes, you know, I'm still learning, or us as the team are learning to, what's that fine line, you know, because in some regards we're very private, because we want to preserve that space for persons that are very seriously pursuing this type of growth of mind, and that are seriously pursuing business and industry, and taking real serious entrepreneurial actions, right? But at the same time, we also know the necessity to allow ourselves to be open and available for anyone that just walks in off the street. So like, we're still navigating that, and I think we're going towards the direction, being that the space is large enough, where we're going to just be open 24/7 and just repurpose different aspects of the space where those more persons that need a more intimate use of it have that as well. But anybody that wants to come and get, you know, some, you know, black products, you know, from the universal black community, we could be that location for them, you know.
Got it. Ray, when it comes down to, because you mentioned how it's pretty, you're not juggling a lot of, well, would you say you juggle a lot of things at the moment with the space and obviously your family and everything you got going on?
I mean, some would say, I don't. You know, it's my life, it's my work, you know, so it's like I don't do anything else. It's not like I'm clocking in at another job or anything. So this is my job. So, I mean, there's other persons that may, you know, juggle more, you know, and I think in the terms of music and the entertainment industry itself, I think a lot of people have to understand the very nature of it is that, like, you can't be successful in this if you don't, you know, attain the skills to multitask. You know, that's what they call juggling. This juggling is still orderly, you know what I mean? They know what they're doing. They're getting the balls up and down. The balls aren't falling. So the problem is having too many balls and not knowing how to juggle, I guess. You know what I'm saying? If you got too many balls, too many things to have a hand on, and you don't know how to properly order it and arrange it, it could become a stress.
Got it.
and you won't make no gains. But far as for me, I have like great help, you know, and like my team, my brothers, my family, my wife, my children, man, we're a very tight unit, so there's no war among us. Like it's all peace, you know. We're not at odds in anything, and I think when you have an environment like that, it's just fun, you know. It's just work. It's just things to do. It's just inspiration to go further, inspiration to succeed and to do it better the next time, you know. So you know, I know it's a lot of work, but not too much to juggle.
God, yeah, I like that. Now
Yeah.
it's interesting because at the end of the day, it's aligned, right? Everything is aligned in a way where you don't necessarily have to force things. It's
Right.
just coming into the right order.
That's it.
So with that being said, what are some skill sets? How are some ways you sharpen your skill sets and mindset whenever it comes down to what you're currently doing?
Man, I don't know. What I can't tell you what works for me. What I do is, you know, I live a spiritual life. I keep my spiritual principles. I keep my tenets. You know, I study an hour a day just on my faith. I read. You know, I try to stay fit. Try to eat healthy. I do the things that, you know, science says is good for you to do, and I do the things that the spirit says is good for you to do. And I just always assess myself where I find myself slow, where I find myself, you know, lacking power in. I just look at that, honest about it, and just study it and learn it more. And you know, if you know, I'm pretty easy in that. I just feel like, you know, over so many years like I said, with my wife, I've really locked into particular just lifestyle habits of principles and morals that kind of keep me straight.
Okay.
You know, so for me, it's more of like, it's about living a life of learning. I know I don't know everything. I can't learn everything, but I could very well try, and it's a very great pleasure to do so, because for me, you know, the greatest benefit is to learn and to have a deeper understanding of a thing that you thought you knew.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
So the layers of learning, the layers of understanding, like the scripture says, you know, I'm into the scripture, bro. So,
I like that.
you know, it's like, hey, before all thy getting, get wisdom, right? You know, and with all thy getting, get understanding. So wisdom is the principal thing. So for me, I live a life of seeking the principal thing, which is wisdom and understanding, and I seek to put that wisdom and understanding in all that I do. And I put God first. So if I'm putting the Most High first, like, I don't think you can really go wrong with putting the Creator first. When you put the Creator first, you put your family, and you put good principles first, good ideas first, then, like, you're gonna go in the right direction. You know, I remember a friend of mine told me, I don't know. He told me, I won't butcher his expression,
Okay.
but we were chopping it up one day, and he said, hey, man, you know, we're talking about everything. We was, yo, Kanye, did you hear what Kanye said? Or whatever it may be, right?
Okay.
But the reason why I mentioned it like that is because he said, hey, man, you know, dumb people talk about people. You know what I'm saying? Smart people talk about events, world events. And wise people sit and discuss ideas.
Yeah.
You know, so I was like, you know, when he chopped it up, I was like 100% agree. And like, so that's what I pursue. I pursue the idea of things. You know what I'm saying? So if we're talking about money, we're talking about business, we're talking about entrepreneurship, there's a core essence of what that thing is. So I like to examine that thing, what it means to me, what's my relation with it, and then that's how I determine what I'm gonna do with it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And that's always kept me. So when I examine a business deal or something, I'll look at the money.
Right.
I have to look at what's the core of this. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't say no to something if you're only looking at the surface of it. Oh, that's money. Its amount adds up. It makes sense. Okay, I'm gonna take it. And then later on, you're complaining, well, I didn't like how this came out, or I didn't like what they did, or I didn't really feel, it really wasn't my idea, I lost. So, but if you look at the nature of it and you look at the true essence of what that thing is, you can say, okay, well, this is the money, but this is what that really is. That means me sharing this idea. That means me selling this idea. That means me giving this ideal to someone who has every intention to corrupt it, that's going to function against what my purpose is. So therefore, that's how I'll make my judgment. No, that's something that I'm not going to do. Whereas if I don't look at things from a spiritual, you know, mind, if I'm not calibrating and trying to bring everything to the litmus test of the creator, then you easily can make mistakes or fall into something that you know had no real intention in doing just simply because you didn't understand it yet.
Right.
Or you didn't know it yet, you know? And so that's what I tend to do. I tend to just try to better myself and just keep centered and following the creator.
Which is powerful because it helps you become better at discerning things, having better discernment.
Right, absolutely.
And you won't necessarily be easily fooled because you listen to God. You have this close and powerful relationship with God.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, as a native of California, a California native, owner, black business owner, what are some challenges that you're currently facing or you faced dealing with Quebec's politics?
Ah, man, that's a touchy one, right? You know what I'm saying? If you want to keep on doing business, you got to watch. Nah, I'm just playing. But, you know, I'm rather open. I think there's problems everywhere. You know, anywhere you choose to do business, like any field you choose to do business in, you got to clear the field, right? Got to take the rocks out. You got to, you got to make it able to be farmed, able to be worked. So I think oftentimes a lot of people kind of say, you know, all those rocks are those things which is part of labor, clearing that field for it can actually be worked. You know, they complain about that, or they say, oh, those are the problems. And a lot of times it's just the work. It's not a problem at all. It's just the work that's necessary. The problems that I face more so, you know, have been, you know, a lot due to my personal circumstances and experiences in the province, you know, which have opened up my eyes to, you know, a lot of things globally. So I think it's more of like when we're dealing with like immigration policy, that has greatly affected me and my family here, you know, things like that. I think if we look at, you know, I don't like to always bring up like systemic racism as just a broad, but, you know, expression, but there are certain practices within different agencies of the government that have historical precedents of being selective, of being racist, of being, you know, exercising forms of bigotry. And I think there are traces. I think obviously we're not living in the same time of 50, 100 years ago, but there are traces of that still exist. And I would tell you, as a so-called black man from America, having, you know, come to this country and learn that they were an immigrant, you know, there's some very big flaws. And it's causing a lot of persons, like in our case, that can be contributing a lot to the society to not even be able to function normally in society, you know what I'm saying? So for me, it was just like these things were big issues. In terms of business, like far as in entertainment and arts is seen here, and for my case, like hip hop, it's more of just like navigating the cultural divides, navigating the level of education and awareness pertaining to the industry. It's here, but not in a mass, and not everyone's willing to, you know, contribute to building it here, you know. So, you know, I think that the diversity of, in my experience, the diversity of black nationalities per se, you know, because I don't come from that. I don't come from the divisions of so-called blackness as it is here, you know. So, you know, it took me years, and I'm still learning that. So there's certain things that I thought just made sense, which would be like, oh, we're going to unify, we're going to do this project, we're going to work on these things together. But there were other aspects that I just didn't know. And a lot of different cultural viewpoints, the lens of a person takes when they take a certain identity. You know, it could be very divisive in a lot of terms, but it could be unifying in some, you know what I'm saying? But if the ones are unified are not the ones that you seeking to build a vision with, it, you know, it creates, you know, separation and division, you know. See, I don't come from that. I look at, first of all, I look at all people as people to create, you know what I'm saying? But I don't neglect the divisions and the social divisions of people, you know what I'm saying? So when I say, oh, so-called black people, or I do black business, it's just an acknowledgement of the reality of how we exist in the earth, you know what I'm saying? It's not like my aims to be like, yo, no, only black business, but that's just how it is. And, you know, as if it was any people on the earth that was hurting, I would want to help them, right? So I know that my people we're hurting in various aspects of our lives, whether it be business, politically, economically, socially, and spiritually. This is the reason why I put most of my efforts towards the so-called black community at this moment, you know. Hope there's a day where we're healed and we don't have those problems and we're standing at the table, you know, the table of nations with everyone else, you know, the table of rulership per se, but, you know, that's not the case. So that's where I tend to put most of my energies and my efforts. And in so doing, I have found that it's very different here than in the States, you know. I don't know to what degree, you know, you want to discuss it because I'm very opinionated about those things.
Yes.
But ultimately, if you get a group of people that can ascend past their own nationality into a more and unify on greater principles of morality and choose this to rest their identity upon, I think that like the business sector here of black creatives can be a force to reckon with in the world. And being that we have like the the bilingualism and the other cultures that are in the area, I think that are already naturally in alignment and that unification is already present. I think this could be the next LA, New York, Atlanta, and Toronto in terms of cultural production, in terms of entertainment and art. Some may think it already is, but you know, I'm more saying for black entertainment.
Well, you answered that question. You answered my next question. I was going to say, how could we change that? How could we improve it? And you really answered it. And it makes me think of, it's also a blessing in a way where you're able to filter out the ones that are not necessarily for you, the ones that are not necessarily rocking with you at 100.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you won't necessarily have to, you know, wave a flag or force them to come your way.
Right, you don't.
Because if they're not with it, they're not with it until they missed the boat or they missed the bus and realize, okay, damn, there's other cultures that are part of it. And I thought I was going to be in it because, you know, my skin color just is beyond that. It's the consciousness. And it's everything else that's on beyond the surface level. Like you said.
Right. You know? Absolutely, 100%.
Trust me. So when it comes down to lessons, because you've been dropping gems, you probably don't even know. It's like unconscious, the gems that you're dropping.
Oh, well, thank you, brother.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned thus far as a business owner?
Oh, man. There's so many, you know. Obviously, I would tell everyone to keep your books tight. You know what I'm saying? Things like that. This is not what I would say, but there are a few things that you have to do. You got to keep your books tight. You have to have a clear aim and objectives. You have to have a business plan, you know. However, with all those traditional things, I think there's something that's way more important than all of that. You have to have a purpose. I think you're supposed to structure and design everything else upon your purpose. And yes, your purpose will change over time, as so your business will change over time, you know what I mean? But I think if you're very solid in your purpose, or if you don't even have a purpose, you should be saying that I'm doing business to find my purpose, you know, and then you'll fall into the right sort of business you're supposed to be in. So I think, you know, a lot of people go into business for superficial reasons, you know, obviously we have to eat, we have to. And then I think now it's got this wave of everyone wanting to be an entrepreneur, and they don't, you know, it's more of like a trend to some. It's like, oh, that's the new cool. You got the new Jordans, all of that. You got the new idea, which is to be an entrepreneur. Okay, you know, but I think it's too much like that. And I think a person really needs to really soul search and say, well, what is it that I was created for? What am I in the earth to do? And I think when a person contemplates that and then look at what you really are talented at, I'm saying, hey, I'm good at breaking pencils, man. Like when I get that pencil in my hand, I just like snap it. I have no problem.
Sound effects and all.
If you are, there you go. You see, like, yo, if you are the #1 pencil breaker, you got to acknowledge that, yo, man, you break pencils. Don't be mad. You know, your friends rapping and someone else can play, you know, is a musician. Hey, tune into your pencil breaking self. Understand your purpose. Understand your purpose and build upon that.
Right.
Because from there, you'll have a real clear vision of how to lay your plans. And if it's pencil breaking, like you said, hey, maybe my pencil breaking leads to me going into film and me going into, you know, doing sound effects. And now maybe I should look into, you know, sound studios like this. And maybe I should go in that direction. Maybe that's what my purpose is, or whatever it may be. But if you don't look at your true talents, your actual talents, your God-given talents, you know what I'm saying? and derive a purpose with that, then you're gonna be lost, or you're gonna be chasing something that is gonna end up being very superficial, vain, or something that you're unhappy with at some point. Even if you do have success, you're like, oh, I'm successful, I got these gains, but I still don't know my purpose. And now you start getting agitated and bothered with that which you created, because it's empty. You know, it's an empty statue, and empty statues become idols, you know, and then you end up hating it because you're now in a situation where you're forced to do something for other needs that your essence and who you really were and your purpose was never really in it. You know, so I think the basis is to find your purpose, find your talents, you know, and then take a very serious look, always learn, be open with what you don't know. Don't be afraid of what you don't know. Like I was just speaking with my wife the other day, and I was saying that, you know, ignorance doesn't equate being dumb. It just means you don't know something. You could be highly intelligent and you can be highly keen. You just have to apply yourself to know that which you don't. And you have to be willing to humble yourself, Humblux, right? Before you get the luxury of the gains, you got to humble yourself and know, yo, there's humility before honor. You know, so let me be humble with what I know, and let me be humble with what I don't know. And, you know, these are type of ingredients that I feel that, like, you know, people overlook, because we live in this modern fast-paced society where it's like they push education a certain way down the throat. You know, I'm for education, but the way they give it to you is like results in uneducated, being uneducated in particular fields, you know? So I feel like with all of this, you put it together, and then you take what everyone knows that enters into any business endeavor. You got to have a real solid plan. You know what I'm saying? You got to know what your product is. You know, you got to know, you know, how you're going to get aspects of what you need. And you keep reviewing it and checking it. You know what I'm saying? What works, what doesn't. You know what I mean? And you learn. Got it. You know what I'm saying? You just keep on learning, and you keep on doing. That's it. Never stop.
Just continuously repeating it.
That's it. You know, you start, stop, repeat. That's it. Start, stop, and assess, and repeat. Okay. And if it's not you, then you'll know, oh, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't want to do this. But if it is you, and if it's in your purpose, then you'll just gain more passion, and more passion. And as you continue that cycle, you eventually will spiral up, and then you'll start touching those things that, oh, this is what I was seeking for. And then you'll have, but you'll have your purpose of what you're going to know, what you're going to do with your gains. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to trick yourself into believing like, oh, these gains are just for my superficial use. You have a purpose. Where are they going? What are they? You know, we can easily say, oh, family, children, but I feel that persons have to take a more deeper examination of that. You know what I'm saying? For me, because for me, it's always been about building kingdom, building kingdom on the principles of God. You know, I'll tell you straightforward. You know, that's what it was for me. That's been my saving grace. And I understand every angle, you know what I'm saying, from the hood, from the street, because I've been from there. And, you know what I'm saying, and I've had the opportunity to walk among the impoverished and walk among the kings. And so I know my purpose is to be able to be a mediator between these two and try to build something in which both alike can benefit in a greater, higher principle in the service of the Creator. You know, now I don't feel like, you know, I don't impose my view of the Creator on anyone, but I think there's a universal core of principles that all humans can kind of find through being open-minded. You know, through an open-minded exchange in humanity, we can find that thing that people call God. And I think that was my purpose, you know. So I would say, you know, if everyone's purpose was that, man, we'd be living in heaven. But however, the way that it is, I think that if a person can find something to them that is similar to that, you know, that is based upon productivity, you know what I'm saying, that's based upon peace, that's based upon good government, that's based upon communal welfare, you know what I'm saying, that if these principles are in one's mind and they say, I'm going to infuse these things in whatever I do, you know, I think that's where it has to start. You know what I'm saying? Because when it comes down to it, we are trying to do business where? In a country, in a nation. And so without the nation being progressive, there's no platform for us to do anything.
Real talk. Right?
So we can complain about the government, which I haven't, and you know, no one's a better complainer about the government than me at home, in my privacy, right? But I think that if we look at society and say anything and any endeavor we're doing, we have to do it in a mind to better our collective society. We have to do it in a way that includes every aspect of society. We have to do it in a way in which we're examining and at least giving our all to correct the wicked problems of society.
Right.
This is the foundation in which one should build a business, because this makes society better. And when society is better, business is better. Right? If society is not good, business is not good. So that's why it's important. If we bring it down to smaller microcosmics of society when we're dealing with communities that exist in society. If your community is weak, then the business of that community is weak. So that's why it becomes important for me to deal with the black community or the community in which I come from, because we're just a segment of the larger society. And I want to contribute to the larger society, but I understand that, hey, my action to that is here at home, right? Even though my home is massively divided in Montreal and would say their homes are elsewhere than mine, but these are just some of my thoughts about it,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, when it comes down to, like, let's just say you had an opportunity today to sit down with your 16-year-old self. What's the first thing that comes to mind? What would you tell that person?
Oh, man, I feel like I sit down with my 16-year-old self like 3 times a day.
Oh, shoot.
You know what I'm saying? I got 8 children, so, I got a 16-year-old. I'm like, dang, I feel like I'm talking to myself, so. But, like, if I could tell myself, though, my 16-year-old self, I would just, just say, hey, keep your faith in the Creator, man. He'll work all things out for you, be confident. I'll probably tell myself, hey, study this or study that a little more. Hey, don't give up, man. Math is it, dude. Accounting, I don't know. I might tell myself, silly things like that, that would benefit me now. But for the most part, I would just tell myself, you're on the right path, young man. Never let your faith and your drive in the Creator diminish.
Right.
I would tell myself, yes, seek a wife. She'll be there. You know what I mean? Because since 16, I was looking for my wife. You know what I mean?
Man, that's dope.
And I would tell myself, no, you're not crazy. You know what I'm saying? I know you see all this. Don't worry about everything that's around you. Continue in the path that you're going. It'll make sense soon enough.
Got it.
Last
question. What do you want people to remember you for, and how do you want to be remembered?
Oh, man, I would like to be remembered for a lot of things, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of things, But I think the only right answer, like, for myself, based upon my principles, I just would like to be remembered as a good man, like a man that believed in the Creator, a man that worked, a man that did not cage himself to his own perceptions, a man that learned from others, a man that loved his wife and loved his children, a man who loved his community, man. Just a person that was filled with love. That's what I would like to be remembered. Like that this guy was a lover. He was a man of love. That makes sense. And I'm not talking about like a player, that kind of man of love. You know what I'm saying? We was all those back in the day when we was young, but I'm talking about a genuine, true man of love. And that love, a man of love for me starts with the love of the Creator, love of their family, they love of their fellow people,
That's dope. Man, California Ghost King, let the people know how they could get a hold of you.
Ah, man, you could, I think you could first come down to our space. It's on Rochelle. I don't know the exact address, but tune in to, Elevate the Mic. They'll have our links there, but you can hit us up at humblux.com, or you can go to our Instagram, I believe, Clan Supreme. That's Clan SPRM, and yeah, that's it, man.
Dope,
Email info@humblux.com, and yeah, that's it.
Man, it was a pleasure having you, honestly.
It was a pleasure being here, man.
I could tell that you're just a stand-up person that stands for something serious and something that's gonna help not only your children, the community, and people who are part of your team. So
thank you, brother.
Just keep on keeping on.
As my hand and my extension is out to you. You know what I'm saying? So as with anyone else, bro. So if there's anything that I can help, please do. Make use of me.
Love, always.
Right.
There you have it, for another episode of Elevate the Mic, where we elevate the mindset and skill sets of individuals who are part of the hip-hop community. Peace.
Thank you, brother.